All right. It's 10:40. Good morning, everyone, and it's good to see you. I'd like to welcome you all to our session. I know we're in day two of our STENT conference. We're finishing up summer and we're getting ready for the new school year and wrapping things up, right, as we start the new school year. So I'm very excited to be here. Thank you for having me. I went ahead and shared the links for today's session in the chat. I'll go ahead and reshare that right now so you can access those and continue to refer to those even after our session together. And there's a lot packed in as we intuitively do as teachers, but really I just want to provide an experience for all of us. And where we land is where we land for today. Certainly today is just going to start the conversations, but I hope that you will take whatever that you need personally, no matter how small, with you after today. So thank you again and welcome. Go ahead and push start. And please feel free to unmute or engage in the chat at any time. I know we're a small group, but we're a mighty group. And I'm happy to pause as needed. Okay, so I wanted to go ahead and begin with a circle map. Um, you've probably seen this before, or you've been supporting teachers in their literacy and how to use thinking maps. But for me, I actually like to use it in a way that kind of deepens and engages audiences beyond just literacy, but like how we can bring it back to us as facilitators and as teachers. So before I became a teacher, I was a yoga instructor uh, way back when, long time ago. And then eventually I left the yoga studio to become a science teacher. Many of my clients in yoga were teachers and principals. They were very overwhelmed, very stressed, and they would come to my class. And I didn't really understand stress until I became a teacher after. So I think it was definitely a full circle moment for me. When I left the classroom, I decided to move on to other roles. And in addition to that, these are other things that I hold to my heart in terms of what I identify as. I'm a son, I'm a brother, I'm an uncle, caregiver. I'm Filipino, and the term that I like to claim is AAPI. I also identify as queer. And that's a term that I personally reclaim. There's definitely a historical significance to that term, and we'll look at that a little bit later. But that's the term that I use when I walk into spaces. I'm a student. Well, I guess not anymore. I finished um, my dissertation last year, but I think I'm a lifelong learner for sure. And in addition to all of that, I was a mentor where I worked with and hosted student teachers, pre-service teachers, interns, all the way from their preliminary program through induction. So I would like to think that that's the lens that I carry, is working primarily with pre-service teachers. And now I continue to carry and wear the hats of ally and educational leader. I like to use this to um, share with everyone who I am, and and also to see that these are the experiences that I carry with me whenever I walk into a space. So anyhow, I'd like us now to just take a moment. I don't know how well we all know each other, but I'm going to just send us into breakout rooms for a few minutes, and really simple, just a moment to introduce yourselves and what motivated you to attend this workshop or this session today. So it looks like we have about 12. So let's do this. Let's do 4 breakout rooms. And for sake of time, for sake of ease, I'll just go ahead and make it random if that's okay. And in a moment, you'll see on your screen. So give us a couple moments here to introduce ourselves and to share why did we come to this session today. Okay. All right, here we go. Okay, everyone, welcome back. I know 5 minutes goes by so quick. And I just wanted to pause here and take a moment. And if anyone feels um, brave to unmute and just share what was something that you heard in your group in terms of what motivated you to join us today. And you can also put it in the chat as well. So let me pause here.
Hi, Dr. Alex. We all introduced ourselves, and I think most of us shared that we're allies and we want to learn more. Given the current environment, one of our participants, Tracy, hi Tracy, actually places student teachers, and Dr. Young is at UCI, and then I'm a field supervisor. So we're coming from different areas, but how to assure students are supported? What happens if they're placed in a district that is not welcoming? What if the student teacher themselves is not welcomed? And just kind of how to navigate, how to learn. And hopefully this is a small enough group we can ask you directly some of the questions so we can better support, serve, and be good allies in any way we can.
Thank you. Anybody else?
So I'm Robin, and I think we just shared situations that I guess you'd say they're of interest. I worked with Helen, and she shared the fact that, people have opened up to her and her approach, that just like you had the circle map describing, she said, she's a supporter. And, what she tells her student teachers. Um, she expressed concern over, I don't want to say book banning, but taking certain books off of lists because it mentions two dads, which, and, should we do that with avid readers? Um, I live in Huntington Beach, which is famous for its library
Mm.
issue and having, I'll use the term MAGA. I hope that's not offensive, but a 7-person MAGA council that um, removes any books that they think have profane material. So, I mean, there's just a lot of political stuff going on. I described a situation. Um, I don't know if the term is homophobic, but I know a student who is gay who was my student in high school 8 years ago and is now doing his student teaching. And he wanted to start a group to support, um, you know, queer, gay, whatever term, LGBTQ. He wanted to have a supportive group. And I don't think it was a small conversation, but he didn't get a yes. He didn't get encouragement. And I passed it on to those with power. And I feel failure because I feel that's wrong, but I don't have the power to change that. But I don't know.
Yeah,
Alex, if you would like to talk to him, because I think he will be a doctor someday. He's blessed, gifted. And so we just talked about specific situations.
great. Wow, wonderful. Thank you all for sharing. I feel that we're definitely here in community, that you're in the right session. And I want to reiterate too in terms of what my role is. So yes, I was a classroom teacher, science teacher, but then transitioned into the mentor teacher role, clinical faculty advisor, now adjunct faculty. So I've kind of I kind of lived, right, these different experiences. But what I'm hearing from you is that what can we do in these positions of authority, right? These positions of power. I'm going to go ahead and say that I think we all are in positions of power in our roles. What can we do, right? And I agree. I think it's simply starting with your group, starting with self. That's why we're here. And I think starting with understanding and awareness, which will give us that confidence to move forward even just a little bit while these things are happening in the socio-political context. Okay, so you're in the right session. We're definitely going to be touching on activities and things that I think you will find valuable and will allow you to continue these conversations courageously the best you can. And just to know it doesn't stop here, right? We're going to continue to engage in this work. And of course, I would love to stay connected with all of you. So I'll be sure to share my contact information with you all um, before we leave today. So I'm excited. Thank you. Thank you all for sharing. Okay, so in terms of objectives, I have them listed here. This is not really a laundry list, but I like to think of them as sort of entry points where we will sort of jump around and talk about these different things. What is homophobia, transphobia? How do we apply these inclusive frameworks? Starting to look at failed inclusion efforts or maybe efforts that started to pick up some steam and it kind of fell flat. That does tend to happen, right? Reflecting on ourselves, okay, because we can't excuse ourselves from this work. We do consider ourselves allies, but we also have to continue the work within ourselves, right? That internal work. So that's very important. And I think also very importantly, strategies, right? What are some resources that I can feel comfortable sharing with my pre-service teachers, um, other colleagues, right? And even faculty and so forth. So as I mentioned, I think you're going to take away the sort of nuggets that you need for today and to use it in a way that's meaningful for you. Okay, now in terms of norms, these are pretty intuitive, but I simply ask us to continue to be engaged, be present, speak from your heart. I can feel it already, okay, but please continue to do that. Give yourself permission to be brave, no shaming or judgment, embrace non-closure. I think this is ongoing. It's a continuous conversation that we'll continue to have. And please give space and take space. Okay, so let's start off with a poll. I always like to do a sort of temperature check in terms of who's in the room and what's on your mind, right? Where are you along your own journey in terms of LGBTQ plus inclusion and so forth. So I'm going to go ahead and put a link in the chat. How many of us have used Mentimeter? So easy, so much fun. And please let me know if the link works. Let me go ahead and exit out of here too, so I can check and see. Click present here. Hopefully the link works. Nice. Good. So I see support, compassion. Looks like compassion's been repeated a few times. Caring, advocate, tolerance, questioning. Absolutely. Humanizing. I love that term. I use it a lot. Empathy. History. Good. We're actually going to touch up on some history, and I think that's important as well. Openness, sensitive, powerful, recognition, assistance. Good. Unsure. Excellent. Thank you. Maybe we're just starting or we're curious, right? And there's a space for that as well. We're all along this continuum of the work. We're all in different places. So it's important to acknowledge that. I don't know. Yeah, that's okay. You're here. Excellent. Good. Well, thank you all for that. It gives me an idea of the people in the room. So I appreciate your honesty. And I'm going to go ahead and bring us back to our slides here. All right, so let's check for some prior knowledge. I'm going to give you a little quiz. Don't worry, you're not going to get a grade. But raise your hand or give me a thumbs up if you've seen this acronym before. Okay, good. So I'm just going to say the letter out loud. You don't have to unmute yourself, but I just want you to say what the word is by yourself. Okay, you're in a safe space. No one can hear you, just you. So I encourage you just to be brave right now. Okay, L stands for good. G is, B is, and T is. Okay, I saw your lips moving, so I know you were participating. Thank you. Now imagine doing this in a room full of people, right? And you hear it in chorus, so it gives another layer of engagement. So L was lesbian, right? G is gay, B is bisexual, and T you might have said transgender. Okay. All right. Not too bad. Okay. How about this acronym? Have you seen this before? Yeah. Yeah. Or maybe a version of this. Okay. So again, by yourself, you don't have to unmute. Go ahead and repeat what the words are out loud. Okay. So L is G, B, T is, Q is what? Or there's two. Okay. So Q can be, let me pause here. Go ahead and put in the chat if you take a guess at what you think Q is. Let's see what we got. Good, Michelle, excellent. Good, Mary, you got it. So queer questioning is the Q. How about I? Go ahead and put in the chat. Anybody know what I is? Okay. Yes, intersex. Intersex is letter I. Excellent. How about A? Very good. Asexual. There's another A. Anybody know? Take a guess. Good try. It's not ally. You might be Googling. Agender. Agender. Have you seen that term before? Yeah, yeah, that's another one. How about 2S? 2S. Go ahead and put it in the chat. Take a guess. Oh, nice, Michelle. It's a good guess. 2S is referring to two spirit. Two spirit. Okay, so that's an indigenous term. Indigenous. And then what does the plus represent? What is the plus? Exactly. Everyone and everything else, right? So I like to start off with this exercise because number one, it gets people a little bit, well, I don't know, maybe a little uncomfortable, right? Because imagine saying, lesbian all out loud together in a classroom. Like it's kind of liberating in a way, but it's interesting to feel the hesitation in the room. So I like to start off with that and just kind of, laugh about it too, because it breaks the tension. But I also like to see how people engage with the letters and seeing, hey, I think I've seen this letter before. Let me take a guess, right? In addition to that, I also want to point out that the acronym changes constantly. LGBTQ plus, LGBTQIA, LGBTQIA2S plus, right? There's the 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 acronym is constantly, as we say, expanding, just as languages. So anyhow, something pretty cool, right, to think about. What I also wanted to point out too, in addition to the acronym, is that the flags, right? So the different flags have meaning as well. In the digital folder that I shared with you, or the toolbox, it actually goes over what each flag represents and what the colors mean. So this touches into a little bit of the history of the flags and what they represent. But again, another way to engage with where the acronym comes from, and learning more about the significance of the colors. Okay, I think this could be a workshop in itself, right? Just learning about the different flags. Oh, true story. When I presented a workshop in one of the teacher conferences, someone corrected me and said, "Oh, the flag, you inverted it." So I inadvertently, the red, I was displaying pride flags and I put the red at the bottom. So they said, "Oh no, you have to, the red comes first." So even the way you position and show these symbols of inclusion has meaning, which is really, I think, really important. Okay. Also, did you know the order of the letters matter? So why did we start with the letter L? So believe it or not, during the AIDS crises in the 80s and 90s, lesbians were at the forefront of helping gay men with medical care during that time. They donated blood, they provided food and shelter, and they stepped in as nurses to help those that were dying during that time. Isn't that interesting? So in a way to sort of honor um, the women that were taking care of the gay men who were dying, they put the L first. So now the order and the number of the letters may have changed over time, but the message remains the same. It's about inclusion, understanding, and most importantly, love for each other. Okay. Yeah. How many of you have seen the order of the letters different, maybe in different settings? You might have seen G first, like GLBTQ, right? Or QT, right? So putting Q first, so queer. It depends too who might be facilitating or what space you might be walking in, that you might see the acronym represented in another way. Pretty cool, right? Okay. So a little bit of history there for you. All right. So speaking of terms, what I'd like us to do is now I'm going to send us back in our breakout rooms, but now I'm going to give us a chance to really engage with the vocabulary. Um, I recognize that teachers, right, pre-service teachers, maybe even their mentors, uh, they might feel uncomfortable. So for me as a facilitator, I find that one of the easiest access points is just to start engaging with the vocabulary, right? Because it's the words. It's, hey, where did I hear this word from, and so forth. And it also gives you a chance to see what your students know, what your teachers know, or what your colleagues know in a way that's not, I guess, as scary, right? Because you're centering on language, terminology. Okay, so let me go ahead and put this now in the chat. There's going to be a link there of slides. And you're going to go into the same breakout rooms, okay? And based on your breakout room number, you'll find your slide and you're going to see a bunch of virtual note cards. I know it's a little bit overwhelming on the eyes, so I do apologize. A lot of text. Looks like this, okay? But I'm going to give you a couple minutes with your group just to start to move the cards around to match the terms. It's not a competition who gets it done faster. Again, it's about, hey, what do I know? What do my partners know? And trying to come to an understanding of what these terms mean. Some of them we already started to talk about, okay? But I think you'll find that, well, I'm going to stop. I want you to just experience it. Okay? Any questions before we go back to those breakout rooms? Sound good? Okay. I don't think we'll need 10 minutes, but I'll give us enough time and then I'll try to pop in to each room just to see where we're at, and then we'll see what you all come up with. Okay? All right, here we go.
Alex,
Yes.
I joined late. I apologize. Can you put me in a room?
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
Yes.
Me too, Alex.
Sure. I see you. Okay. So Laura, let's put you there. Sandy, I'm going to place you in room 2. Is that okay?
Okay.
Let's do it.
How long is the breakout room?
I think I'm going to give us about 7 minutes. And if
Okay.
we need more time, we can extend.
Okay.
Okay,
Can you resend it to me? I just clicked the wrong button.
sure.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
Oh, no worries. Okay, welcome back, everyone. I apologize for interrupting your conversations. I heard some very, very, very good conversations, and I wanted to hear from the group on what you experienced. But before we dive into that, let's check our work really quick. And I appreciate too, right, using some of the resources at your disposal. Maybe you looked online, maybe you used ChatGPT. That's great, right? You're trying to seek out, what these terms mean because you might be hearing it a lot. And I would even say you'd be surprised about our students, how many of these terms they already know, right? But anyhow, I'll go ahead and pause here. We'll look at, here you go. How did we do? Did you get them right? Okay, there's that term again, queer, right? So I mentioned that's the term that I use. Okay, there's a term, intersex, humanizing. As I was dropping into the breakout rooms in breakout room 3, I appreciated the comment of just, we can't always assume, and we also can't guess or project, right, a term that matches the person we see in front of us. So, is it okay to ask? How do we ask? Right. So I appreciated that perspective in breakout room 3. How about this second group of words? How did you do? Yeah. Okay. It's a lot of vocabulary, a lot of nuances, right? So you can see too that the terminology is very nuanced. And can you see yourself doing an activity like this, right? I was talking with Assam, and when I lead this workshop in person, I actually cut out the terms so that when you're sitting in a group or in a triad with other teachers, let's say on the floor or at a table, you can take the words and move them. And what I find is that you'll see that a conversation unfolds very, very organically. And then you can also see where there's some disagreements too, actually. So let me pause here. So please feel free to unmute or put in the chat. What do you experience? Was there anything challenging about this mini exercise? Anything surprising to you? And maybe where you've heard any of these terms. So please unmute, or if you want to share in the chat.
In our group, it was hard at first to uh, move the cards around, but once I heard
Yes.
your explanation of how you use it in person, that would make so much sense. Since I am a visual and auditory learner, that really helps me to move
Mhm.
things around. I have to touch. But
Yeah.
I have heard several of these terms, and then the next question would be for me, in my small group, if I was doing this in person, I would hope there would be one person who might state their preferences as to how to be addressed. And then my next question was, oh, that's interesting because I have always been afraid of getting the pronouns wrong. I sometimes I mean, that's a question that I would say, I mean, that's heartfelt, but
Yeah.
that
Thank you.
that's, yeah.
Thank you, Helen. So I appreciate the, seeing, visualizing and seeing how you can do this activity in person, printing them out, cutting out the terms, matching them, right? Which adds another layer of engagement. And then as you do this activity, you can see how conversations happen organically in terms of how you maybe how you yourself, right, identify Or maybe this could be an opportunity for you to sort of repeat or affirm like, hi, like this is how I walk into the space. Oftentimes I like to, when I walk into a room, I'll say, hi, my name is Alex or Dr. Rectra. My pronouns are he, him. Even for me, I sometimes forget, you know, or sometimes it feels a little awkward or a little silly, but anytime that I can state my pronouns, I do that. Email signature, even on the Zoom, the way you label your name are all ways that you can affirm, right, your identity and to normalize it in these types of spaces. So very good. Anybody else in terms of what you experienced or thoughts?
I have a question.
Hi, Sandy.
If you're doing this with a group, how do you defuse a situation where you find somebody is resistant, uh, possibly even hostile?
Mm. Yeah, that's a great question. So I think number one, as a facilitator, it's good to be ready, right? To when you might have someone in the space that's just not comfortable or resistant and so forth. So, I really number one, I'll be transparent. It's been very I haven't experienced it a lot, and I've been in lots of different spaces. Number one, when I do offer an experience like this, it's usually people want to be here, right? That's the assumption that I hold. But I do recognize that that might not always be the case. So I just try to be very intentional with the way I present an activity. I always like to come back to norms. So perhaps in the norms, it could be, give yourself permission to observe. Maybe you're not ready to talk. Maybe you're not ready to engage, but can you allow yourself to observe and listen, right? Um, and then, how can you as a facilitator maybe engage or check up on them and engage with them in a way later on or after? I did have one experience where a counselor in my workshop, like they left in the feedback. It was just like, oh, I don't believe any of this. And I thought, okay, all right. So thank you for your honesty. Um, so then from there, I have a choice. Do I take that step to follow up with them? Just say like, hey, thanks for that comment. How can I support you right now? How can I perhaps give you a resource to look at? It's hard. It's hard to say what to do, but I think when you can come back to your norms, the way you present it, your tone and so forth, I think that does make a difference. Now, you might have flamethrowers in the room, right? That happens. Going to USC, we had students that felt very strongly about their beliefs, and we've had some instances where they would um, be confront the professor and so forth. So I think the way you handle it is like just like with anything, just you being authentic, you coming back to a space of respect. And if they're just really not there, give them the option to dismiss themselves too. Sometimes they have to do that, where it's just not productive for them, right? To be in that space. They may not be ready. So that's a lot to say, but I hope
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah, I mean, does that make sense? Like, it's just,
yeah.
it's so difficult, but I think at the same time, I would like to think the majority of the people that you're with are on some level receptive to it. So you have to push forward. You have to push forward and go through. And I do think too, maybe with colleagues, right, with their fellow teachers and so forth, they also play a part as well, right? That sort of shared experience, that leadership where they can also be encouraging as well. I think at the end of the day though, everyone, we still have to come back to a place of just non-judgment, right? Yeah, the
Alex,
flamethrowers.
can I just mention,
Sure,
Alex,
yeah.
can I
Go
just
ahead, Laura.
mention something that I've done? I know I'm going all the way down to the high school level. Is that okay?
Of course, please.
So I also a science teacher, and in biology we look at the chromosomes, and so I will have found it interesting to ask them, but unusual questions like why is the X so big and the Y so small, and little things like that, and talk about the hormone wash that should occur and all this business. And after that, some of the kids who I already can sense are, I'm going to say, on that spectrum. I don't know what else, it's not autism, but that spectrum of LGBT. They will come and ask me questions later and ask for some kind of, sometimes they'll ask for guidance. So I have to steer them somewhere else when that happens. But the point of setting that whole picture up is to let the whole class know there is no straightforward answer for that. That wash can happen in a zillion ways, in a zillion times. And that is a really important way in determining gender versus sex being the biological term, gender being the choice they make later. It may have had an influence. There could be some physiological basis for these kinds of things. And then it really is a good starting point, because then they're like, oh, well, maybe it's, that's just the way it is. So I'm going to come to terms with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that
Thank you.
weird or what?
No, no. I just thank you, Laura. I think it's important too that you can see that even the content, right, area
Yeah.
that you teach, or the candidates that you might be supporting, that
Mm-hmm.
there are connections, right? Not just if they're teaching social studies or English, but science teachers especially, right? Just as Laura is speaking in terms of biology, there's so many entry points and
Yeah.
connections to LGBTQ plus topics. And even me as a science teacher, right? Middle school, so I taught seventh grade for 5 years. I had to teach sex ed. So obviously, as a queer cis male, I wasn't out at the time. But for me, I was like, this is important that I teach this with respect. And I was just amazed about what seventh graders know already in terms of the terms and how curious they were, right? So I think it's one, leverage your content, right? And if you're supporting science teachers, like reassure them, like, yes, this is relevant to you. But then also too, as the teachers themselves, like the more that they can normalize it, also they are setting an example, right? And then talking about flamethrowers, right? Our participants, our teachers, they're watching us. They're watching how we react. Am I going to get like how am I going to react to someone that's flamethrowing in a session? Am I going to get, super angry, or I'm going to be calm? I'm going to be calm and meet that person with compassion, with love, right? I think that's one of the best things we can do too, right? But I know it's hard, especially right now with the times, with the politics and so forth, because we can't deny that that's happening at the same time, right? So anyhow, thank you all for that. You can see, right, just by engaging with the terms, like a lot of conversation can come from this. So maybe this can be something that you try, right, with your candidates. And if you need help with it, right, if you want to talk it through and connect with me and like, hey, Alex, I think I want to do this with my candidates. Like, yeah, I would love to chat with you and how that might look like in your setting. Okay, so all that to say, why is this important, right? So I'm going to pause here and we're going to watch a short video on the impact, right? What impact our teachers have, we as faculty, as teacher educators have on our LGBTQ plus students. Here we go.
I was deeply afraid. I was so scared and terrified. Even if anyone found out about anything of who I was.
If I'm being honest, it was really stressful because you're kind of in this own little bubble where you don't know what to do, you don't know who to talk to about it.
All throughout high school, anytime a question got asked about my identities, I would just be like, I don't really know, like whatever. Or just saying, oh, I'm straight, like cool, because it would just shut people up.
The rumors that you hear around the hallways and the things that people say in the hallways makes me feel unsafe at school.
When I did get a same-gender boyfriend, we were very out publicly, and that was when it felt like you had a target on your back. Sometimes just hearing footsteps behind you puts you on edge because you don't know if they're just running by or running at you.
I grew up in Brunswick, Missouri, which is a really small rural community. People would say, oh, there's a gay boy. I was stared at and looked at weird. As time went on, it even became like physical, where I would get like slammed into the lockers and stuff like that. And I had tried to go to the principal and stuff, but I never felt comfortable to really tell them.
One teacher, I know every day I saw her, she would tell me, don't be out here harassing those girls. And I just found it so inappropriate.
I had some teachers who would never call me Lucas throughout high school.
What right do you have to try and take away my identity from me? Why shouldn't I celebrate who I am?
Hey guys, this is Joe Kudlow with Fiore, and I'm
Sorry about that. Anyhow, let me just pause here, and I'm just curious, after watching that short video, any thoughts, any reactions?
I will share. The always strikes me as I know that LGBTQ youth often get have negative experiences from their peers, but it always just strikes me as particularly harsh and unfair when you hear that we also been treated like that from their teachers and from the adults. Our schools were meant to be family protectors and meant to be the folks that are meant for them, but when you hear that negativity and get that treatment that's coming from the folks that are supposed to trust to take care of them, and it's maddening.
Yeah, I can see it. It affects you. That it connected with you. Thank you, Tracy. Anybody else?
I watched this and I thought, kids have so many struggles in middle and high school. I can't, I'm a secondary person. And to have this kind of stress also just breaks my heart, because to not feel safe in an environment with your peers has to be so traumatic. This young man who's talking about hearing footsteps and not knowing whether he's going to be jumped or people are just running by, just stunned me.
Yeah. Thank you. So thank you all for your vulnerability. I know that when we see and hear the stories of young people, what they're going through, in addition to our queer teachers, right, who might be teaching, it's very disheartening. But I also want to point out too that it's very easy to sort of sit in the space of like despair or deficit, or just like, oh gosh, like what do we do? When there are opportunities, there are possibilities to have joy, to be brave, and to reimagine, right, our classrooms and to provide a better future for our students and our queer teachers. So I do like to show this because it makes it real for us, right? This video is only a couple years old, but it's important for us to hear what the real experience of our queer youth and teachers. There's a couple of things here now, and just for sake of time, I'm just going to kind of point to, but I really encourage you to look at it later because I know you want, there's a lot of goodies in here. But for sake of time, I'm just going to point it out and then get us towards the end where I want to share some resources for you because I think that's going to be very helpful for you. Gender Unicorn, have y'all seen this before? No? Okay. So this is another activity that you can, or conversation starter in terms of, what is this? How can I start talking about this work? So really this goes into the nuances of identity, expression, sex assigned at birth, and so forth. What I like about this is that it's sort of kid friendly, and or you can talk about it in kid friendly language. And this is something, our visual, that does tend to show in our comprehensive sexual health curriculum in California. And I find that when students engage with this, that they can start to see themselves in this, or you can hear the different conversations in terms of, oh, I think I might be this, or oh yeah, I can relate to this, and so forth. So this is something that I think you can definitely share with your candidates. And then of course, like what's happening right now. There's a lot of things that are happening right now in terms of laws, books. I know some of us were mentioning, but book banning, I know that's happening right now. But in addition to that, there are still things in California that we have that can support this work. Those of us that are supporting social studies teachers, right, as you know, anyone know the curriculum or act that uh, supports being able to teach social studies curriculum? Do you know the name of it? Yeah, so in terms of Bill 48, right, this is so we can include people like Harvey Milk, right, and so forth. We have the ethnic studies framework that's starting to roll out and so forth. So these are opportunities for us to have these conversations. If you teach science or supporting science teachers, middle school, right, they will be teaching comprehensive sexual health. We have the California Healthy Youth Act, right? So that's that survey that rolls out that includes sexual orientation and school climate surveys and so forth. So anyhow, I show this because it's important for us to remember that we do have laws in California that support our efforts. And then in terms of like, okay, well, why do I have to know or be aware of what's happening? Here's another study that was released from USC. We know that the adults are broadly opposed to LGBTQ plus related classroom scenarios in elementary school. So that's interesting to see that at the elementary level, it's like, oh no, you don't talk about that. You don't talk about this stuff at all, right? For me, I do work in an elementary setting now as a community school site leader, and I have conversations with leadership like, hey, what do you think about this? And so I've experienced that. But it's interesting because you would think that that our youngest kiddos, that this is where we should start having conversations, but there's obviously there's pushback there. Adults and are comfortable with children learning about opposite sex relationships in high school, but not elementary, right? So it's sort of that privileging, right, of heterosexual themes, right, or lessons and so forth, right? You take a look at what books are we teaching about? If we look at our curriculum, like what themes tend to emerge. And then here at the bottom, in terms of um, the differences in political parties and so forth. So anyhow, it's important for us to see like what people serving, like what communities and what settings they think are more appropriate to have these conversations, and that's not easy, right? Here's a couple more data points I think you can look at on your own in terms of surveys. Gelson, they do a lot of important work. Teachers, right, about how they hear homophobic remarks from teachers. Like that was back in 2021. Do you think that still happens now? Yeah, definitely. So it's like, oh my gosh, like people in the classrooms, right? They could be causing harm. They may not be aware of it. So for the teachers that we mentor now, it's like it's important for them to know that like, hey, you have an opportunity to disrupt this. How can I empower them to do so, right? And then of course, like the Children's Healthy Kids Survey, Here at the bottom, this was back in 2017, 2019. Our transgender students are twice as likely to have experienced chronic sadness as students. So any of you that might be supporting middle school teachers, wow, right? Like such an important age for queer youth. They're developing, they're figuring out who they are. We really need to empower middle school teachers to take this on as well. Here was a video on what's happening in California. Just for sake of time, I won't show it now, but you can definitely refer to it later. But couple things, right? Us as clinical staff, as mentors, you know, maybe I might have a candidate says, well, why do I have to teach this? Or why do I have to talk about this or attend professional learning? Believe it or not, this is included in ed code, right? Topics of diversity and identity, and our California teaching standards. How many of you support induction candidates? Yeah, so when they leave their preliminary program and they start induction, you might know or you probably know the updated standards, right? 2024 that hey, it's important for you to talk about diversity, equity, inclusion. It's in our teaching standards in California, right? So I know it's just like, oh, it's in the standards, so you have to do it. But sometimes it's important to show like, hey, this is not something that I'm not just imagining this, right? This is written into our standards as teachers in California. Yeah. We don't have time to go into scenarios, but I'm going to leave them there for you. Here are some things that you can start to do with the people you're supporting, your pre-service teachers and so forth. Some practical ways. So as I mentioned before, starting with your email signature, your Zoom meetings, right? Stating your pronouns, so important. Put it in there, right? Just get comfortable saying like, hi, I'm Alex, my pronouns are he, him. That gives signals to other people that like you're a safe person to talk to. I also start to work on the ways that I refer to language. So I try to stop, I try to not say guys and boys and girls or ladies and gentlemen. I'm very aware of the terms I use. It takes a lot of practice. Sometimes it slips up, but I start to practice inclusive language. So I model that, right, for my teachers. Posters and so forth, right? You can see digital versions of these online, and I put the links in there. So maybe encouraging your students to have posters up is a good way. Now, we have experienced, right, some situations where putting up a poster was met with other things, right? So yes, that can happen. But we have the posters, right? And some teachers, or actually many teachers, still post them anyway because they believe in it so strongly. And then, of course, strengthening and seeking out people at your school. So I think one of our participants mentioned like the teacher they're supporting, they started small. They're starting to seek out their own allies at their school sites. So starting there, they're there. They're at every school, but we have to seek them out. Yeah. Here's some other things too that I've done with students. So when I was in the classroom, I did a lot of like identity exercises. And I found that when I gave opportunities like this to my students, like they were very comfortable with me, like sharing, hey, I'm queer, or hey, I think I'm gay. And of course, that was such an honor for me because I was like, oh, wow, you feel safe to share that with me, you know? So I would do these activities in my classroom and then show them in the room. And I found that students were much more accepting of each other than some of the adults. Yeah, isn't that interesting? And then some of the other candidates that I worked with, bringing pride events to their school. This was a candidate at the high school